Hi, everyone, and welcome to Jehovah Boy. I'm your host, Doug Smith. Thanks so much for tuning in. Welcome to the show. I appreciate your continued support of this podcast. I hate to get housekeeping out of the way up top, but I know you guys probably don't stick around for this shit at the end of the episode, so I gotta club you over the head with it in the intro. Please, let's boost these numbers. I love doing this podcast. I think it's resonating with people. It seems to be the case. You're telling me so, but hey, let's continue to grow this thing. I need your help in doing so. So please, tell a friend, share a clip, feed the algorithm, feed the almighty beast. It's the one true God. We got to keep it fed. It's hungry, and you can help me do so. There's some ex-Jehovah's Witness subreddits out there. I think people have been posting about it on there. So, and I think it's helped. So please continue to do so. If you have immersed yourself in the Reddit world, which I will not touch with a 10-foot pole, but if you choose to dabble in such hellish ventures, spread the good word. Do what you got to do. Just get the word out there. Rate, review, subscribe. Let's make this thing known. Okay? Please. And thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My guest today is the one and only Randy Savagery. I've never met this dude before. Never talked to this guy in my life. Don't know this guy from Adam. But he reached out to me early on. He was like, hey, dude, I'm a fellow comic, fellow ex-J-Dub. Let's chat. And I said, sure. Why not? I feel like, I know this guy already by proxy of a shared experience, even though I never met the guy. And he's a comedian, he's a podcaster, he's an ex-J-Dub. So we got a lot in common, and it was great talking to him. Interesting story, interesting upbringing, because his dad was not involved with Jehovah's Witnesses. His parents were no longer together. So his dad indulged him in all the things that his mother forbade. So his mom's house was all about meetings and field service and Bible study, but his dad's house was all about Christmas and video games and play dates, being able to hang out with non-believers. When I was growing up, we didn't call them play dates. Growing up in the 90s, if my mom said to me, hey, you want to have this kid over for a play date? I would have been like, play date? That sounds fucking gay. And as we know, Jehovah's Witnesses are not down with things that are fucking gay. But now, hey, times have changed. I asked my son if he wants to have a play date. He's on board. He loves play dates. But it's I don't know, still a term I'm kind of coming to terms with, play date. We just said, you want to have a friend over? You want to have a friend over? I don't know why they call them play dates. But anyway, I was not allowed to hang out with kids that were not affiliated with Jehovah's Witnesses. Randy was. He had a cool-ass dad, so he had some semblance of a normal life, which is great. My dad was not involved with Jehovah's Witnesses either, but he just let my mom brainwash his kids, and he turned a blind eye to it, probably the glass one, and he holed up in the basement cleaning his guns and making bullets, just ignored a large contingent of his family life. But Randy still has a large portion of his family that is still involved in the organization. Many of his family members are still practicing Jehovah's Witnesses. But since he was never disfellowshipped, he was not disposed of like a poopy diaper, which is pretty cool. He's kind of able to straddle this line and live a life of freedom, yet still have contact with his family. It does get a little bit tense at one point in the conversation because he's drilling me about whether I grew up rich or poor, and it's a tough question to answer because I grew up in a very wealthy town in Fairfield County, Connecticut. Most people around me in my vicinity were very wealthy, but I was not wealthy. I wasn't poor either. I was truly middle class. I did have a pool. I grew up on 5 acres of property, but it was inherited from my grandparents. My dad was constantly bitching about money struggles and keeping the bills paid. So I think if you're rich, that's really not an issue. My mom shopped at thrift stores and consignment stores my whole life. We bought used cars, shitty used cars. So I don't know. Now that I'm talking about it, was I actually poor? All those times I ate out of the garbage can, I thought that was totally normal. No, I never ate out of the garbage, but I definitely was not rich. Wasn't poor either. It didn't take the turn that I thought it was going to. He makes a point eventually about, there being a real divide in the Jehovah's Witnesses of these extremes of wealth or poverty. But in reality, I think the real privilege is the one that he experiences, which I think is great, that he gets to live this life of complete freedom, doing what he wants, doing what he believes in, chasing his dreams, without being disowned by his family. And it's a wonderful thing. And that should be the status quo. It really should. If you're in it, welcome aboard. If you're not, hey, we respect your choices. We're still here for you. It's the ostracizing and the shunning that gives Jehovah's Witnesses a terrible reputation and that cult status. If more families were willing to treat their members as Randy's treat him, it would be a much, much happier environment for everybody involved. So it was an interesting discussion. It was cool to talk to somebody who was involved, but it didn't completely consume their life to a devastating effect. Still some fucked up shit, but it wasn't all consuming. So this is really probably the first person I've ever talked to that was able to kind of have one foot out the door without it being a problem. So anyway, great talk. Without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Randy Savagery.
This is Jehovah's Day.
Randy Savagery, what's up, buddy? Thanks for doing the show.
Thank you for having me.
We should let the people know we have never met before, but we are brothers in the faith.
Yeah. Yes, we are. I mean, we might have met before, honestly, though. I mean, the conventions and whatnot. It's a possibility.
That's true, man. That's true. You never know. We go far and wide to spread the good word. But, yeah, you reached out to me and you were like, hey, fellow Jehovah boy, fellow comic. I feel like every ex-J-Dub I meet, we're war buddies.
Yeah.
We've been through the shit. We've seen the same casualties.
Yeah.
So give us a little backstory. You're in the Detroit area, is that right?
Yeah, but I grew up in Oakland County. So like another place that people usually know is like West Bloomfield is around there, or Southfield or Birmingham. So it's Metro Detroit.
Got it. So where did the J-Dub shit come into play? Did people come to your door? Is this multi-generational? How far back do we go?
Multi-generational. Born in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So were your parents born in it?
My mom was born into it, but so growing up, her father was still like Catholic, but her mom was converted at some point. I don't know. She doesn't really tell me that much, but my mom was raised as a Jehovah's Witness.
Got it. So she was born in, she was raised, she met your dad. Did she keep it like on the DL when she met your dad? Was it a thing? Was it a thing that he was on board with?
Right. I love that. So my father, he never has been a Jehovah's Witness. Like, my father's Catholic, so they met in college. My mom went to U of M in Ann Arbor, and then my dad went to Notre Dame, which I don't exactly even know where it is, but I think it's at Indiana. But I don't know. Close enough where they met. And during that time, my mom was disfellowshipped.
For getting involved with a worldly person? Is that why?
No, she got disfellowshipped for divorcing her first husband. So I don't know the dude, you know what I mean? But yeah.
And obviously outside of the Jehovah's Witness grounds for divorce, which the only grounds for divorce, as we know, is adultery.
Yeah.
So there was some other reason that she divorced him.
I'm pretty sure that it's because my mom cheated. Now I don't have I don't got the proofs, right? But from my sister Dana, so she was the adulterer.
Good for her. Way to go, Mom.
Right.
Sow those wild oats.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's one way out. But then so she got this fellowship. she met your dad?
Yeah.
Okay. And then she got back involved?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how it happened, but they got married before I was born, right? So I know that before I was born, she was back to being a Jehovah's Witness. And the way my sister Tashina tells me, it was kind of like this, like so my mom went to finish her degree while she was disfellowshipped, and during that process, when she graduated or whatever, then she became a Jehovah's Witness again, tried to get my dad to get into it. He didn't at all. And then, like, they got married. She got back in and then started raising all her kids like that.
Dude, it's amazing. It's amazing how often that is the case. Countless people that I've talked to, myself included, mom was on board. So many of these dads, dude, so many men are, I think there's some legitimacy to the whole happy wife, happy life phrase. But, not to sell, send your family down the river. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure. You want to raise the kids in a cult? Do what you got to do. Fine by me.
Yeah.
And so many of these guys seem to do that and just let their kids get raised in this fucking hellish landscape of restriction and repression and guilt and shame and fear-mongering. And they're just kind of on the sidelines, just like, I don't see shit. As long as she's happy, just stay out of my hair. So it seems like that's what happened with you. She was out. She got back involved with your dad. She got back into it, had kids, and then that's when she doubled down on it.
Yeah, so I have, Ranelle, Dana, Tashina, those are all my half-siblings. So she had them with her first husband. They were raised as Jehovah's Witness. And then whatever that gap was, I don't know, the college gap till I was born, and then back in it, right? So I also wanted to bring this up because I listened to your show, bro. I got pretty addicted. You know what I mean?
My man.
I want to ask you, because I didn't hear too much about it. Like, so I feel like my father let us go because of all the positive aspects, right? So I always celebrated my birthday. I always got Christmas. I got Halloween, man. I got every single, like, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, where my dad was like, there's no way he won't do these things. But also, I had to read Bible stories for 2 hours at night. Like that, I feel like that helped me a lot in school. Like, all the positives. What you think?
Wow.
What you think?
I think that's great. I think you got, I think it would have been better off if you had no involvement at all, personally.
Right.
But that's cool. Honestly, I'm just feeling pangs of jealousy right now at the moment, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, you motherfucker, you half-assed it.
Yeah.
You dirty dog.
I've been wanting to talk to you about it.
Because I was actually told because as you said at the beginning of the episode, you're like, I don't know, maybe we cross paths at a district convention. Jehovah's Witnesses, they go all over the place. They visit other congregations. Countless people told me, dude, this is the most strict congregation I have ever been to. You guys do not fuck around. They didn't say fuck around, but it was implied. So there was no leniency whatsoever. It was 100% commitment, balls to the wall, or you were, completely looked down upon. So the fact that your dad, took that stance and was like, hey man, this kid needs a normal childhood, that's fantastic. So you celebrated holidays your whole life?
Until like 10 to 14, because I was brainwashed. I was in. 10 to 14 is like where I was like in this, I don't know what you want to call it, but it was like when I was breaking the brainwash barriers, right? Like, I always knew me going with my father to do those things, like, it was structurally incorrect, but I didn't believe it, right? Like, I was like, I don't believe in that stuff. I know, like, Christmas ain't real, blah, blah, blah. So that was the only time I'd say where I stopped, because I chose not to do it.
Wow. So you were feeling guilty about celebrating the holidays, and you took a moral stance to stop?
I think there's always pressure coming from my mom, right? Because she's constantly training me up to get baptized. That's her big plan, right? So I think it was just during that time where, actually through argument, where I was like, all right, fuck it. I won't go. Like, I'll do it your way to experience these gifts or whatever. You know how they be doing, bro. Like, if you do the hard shit, you're going to get these awesome gifts that never come. So that was like a part of when I stopped.
Yeah, the whole thing that's definitely making me reflect on my dad's take on things. Because if he had been raised a Jehovah's Witness, I feel like it would have been understandable for him to be like, yeah, of course he would be raised the way that I was raised. But my dad was not. So he had a fairly normal childhood with all the, all the joys and privileges that most children should be privy to. So the fact that he was like, yeah, I got to have Christmas and birthdays and play sports and hang out with kids after school, but yeah, he doesn't need any of that. He'll be fine. Is completely fucking deranged to me. The fact that he was just like, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Because that's those formative years of socializing and being around other kids your age are huge. I said so many years of solitude, because I was only allowed to hang out with other Jehovah's Witness kids, and my congregation wasn't huge, so I only had like 2 friends, and that was it, dude. And I was like a likable, affable kid. I had kids in school invite me, hey man, you want to come over? And I'd be like, yeah. I can't. Why not? I'm a Jehovah's Witness. What the fuck does that mean? It means that you're bad and you're going to die at Armageddon and I will be guilty through association, so I can't hang out with you.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, well, all right. So I was constantly turning kids down, deflecting things. And eventually I got to a point where I was like, nobody understands this. Nobody understands the reasoning behind this. So I would just lie. And I looked like I had the busiest social calendar ever. Kids be like, hey, you going to the dance this weekend? No, we're actually going on a vacation upstate. Oh, what about you going to the homecoming game next week? No, we're going to visit my my aunt up in New Hampshire. It's just like constant excuses, constant plans, just a full calendar all the time just to have an excuse, And it became ridiculous. And how many times can you fake your grandmother's death or like whatever it may be to get out of doing something?
Yeah.
So, but that's great that you got to do that. But then, so 10 to 14, you had this moral quandary of like, your mom was guilting you, sounds like, right?
Yeah.
She wanted you to be baptized. Which another thing that's important to bring up for people that are not too familiar, as opposed to Catholicism where you're baptized as a baby, Jehovah's Witnesses, you make a conscious decision as when you're of age. Some people do it when they're, I've seen kids get baptized when they're like 6 or 7. Depends how they're committed their parents are to the brainwashing. Some of us are able to hold off till they're like 16, 17, like me. And they finally just like, if you can't beat them, join them, sort of thing. But it's a conscious decision that 9 times out of 10 you are guilted into making.
Yeah.
So did you finally get baptized?
I'm baptized, baby. Fully baptized.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And at what age did you do it?
Shit, what'd they get me at? I think they got me at 15, right at the end. Yeah. Yeah.
Making it sound like a prison sentence. Shit, man. They gave me 15. 15 years. 15, okay. So around the same age. And obviously, I'm sure your mother, probably one of her proudest moments, seeing you take the dunk.
Right.
And did your siblings get baptized as well?
Oh, yeah. All of them are now. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. My dad was kind of on the periphery my whole upbringing. All my siblings were brought on board. They all left one after another. And once they were able to make decisions for themselves, they knew it was horseshit the whole time. But as soon as they were able to be like, I'm out of here, they split. And so all this focus was placed on me and my dad, like, come join us. And my dad, at the age of Jesus, how old was he? I think he was in his fucking 60s when he finally got baptized. he got baptized, I got baptized, and yeah, it wasn't for us. It wasn't decision. It wasn't a commitment to the organization. It wasn't out of devotion and love for Jehovah. It was just kind of like, fine, mercy, I surrender. I'm waving the white flag. I'll put on a fucking white t-shirt and hop in an above ground pool. And, it's a spectacle too, we should mention too. You do it at an assembly or a convention where you often have several thousand people watching you take this commitment. And it's very serious. I mean, there is no grounds for disfellowshipping or any sort of real punishment without getting baptized. Once you get baptized, you are elevated in stature and then are subject to even more pressure and ridicule or
scrutiny.
Yeah, scrutiny. Exactly, yeah. So it's serious business. Like, it's a real gamble. You're like, all right, this is the rest of my life, and if I fuck this up, I'm out on my ass. Everything that I know, all my friends and my family, boom, they're gone.
Oh, man.
So, right?
Yeah,
it's high stakes, dude.
I forget about all this, bro. I don't be thinking about it a lot. So when you bring it up, like, I'm getting the like the feelings that I would feel in those scenarios that you're talking about. It's weird.
So were you, so you had some leniency with the holidays, and how about socializing? Were you allowed to hang out with kids outside of the organization?
It's very interesting, dude, because I think the way you were raised, because your congregation was different, you had a different experience. So my congregation was like 120 people. And then my sister Tashina, she went to the Spanish congregation in Pontiac, right? Because we're Dominican and she likes like the culture better there. So they had about 140, right? When I was growing up, I had at least 50 Jehovah Witness kids my age to play with, right? If you will. So play with all the way up to when you're a teenager. We're getting the cars at the same time. Everything's at the same time, dude. Now, on the other side, right, I have my worldly friends. Now, my worldly association is only allowed at school or with my father, right? Like that, if my father's home, then I can have the neighborhood kids over, or Landon was his name. My friend Landon was allowed to come over, right? If my dad was still at work, my mom, I just knew it wasn't even worth it. Because it was so embarrassing if I bring a worldly person over. So the way my mom was, bro, I mean, she really treated them like subhuman, like to their face. Like, if she saw me playing with a worldly kid out of context, she would say it to them, like he's worldly, get away from him. And it feels so weird when they go, what's worldly? And you're just, I don't know, So,
yeah, man. They're treated like lepers that don't know it, right?
Yeah.
Don't get too close.
Yeah.
It's like our parents were acting like COVID was prevalent, 20 years ahead of the fact.
Yeah.
Maintain a safe distance, social distancing from worldly people at all times, or you'll get a dose of Babylon the Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. My mom was the same way, dude. Just even if it wasn't expressed verbally, there was just like a look of just like looking down her nose at people that were worldly. And even if they were upstanding, perfectly sane, polite, well-mannered people, it was just like, you are lesser than, you will contaminate my son.
Yeah.
You are to have nothing to do with him. Yeah, dude. So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But it's also funny that your dad was, your dad was considered worldly. Like, that counted.
Oh, yeah.
In your worldly quota, it's like, you hung out with your dad, so
Oh no.
That's one less worldly person you get to hang out with this week.
That'd be wild. No, she wouldn't talk. She wouldn't speak that way. She would say my father is worldly, but no. That'd be wild, dude. But there was a dichotomy of that. Where I would always be sticking up for my dad, if you will. You know what I mean? Clay. I don't know. It was the one thing in my mom's mind where if I was like, you can't say those things about him, she would stop saying them. I don't know. Somewhere down the line, she was taught, even if he's not a Jehovah's Witness, you got to respect your husband on a certain level. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And that was prevalent in my home, like for sure.
Wow. So you were allowed to hang out with other kids. Did you go to school dances? Did you start dating as a teenager? What was your
Yeah, dude.
I got mad head when I was 10 years old. What were you waiting for?
That's so funny. No, honestly though, I had wanted to speak to you so bad because of some of the things where like you got injusticized. I didn't, dude. I did not. So, would you ask me dating?
Yeah,
as a teen?
yeah.
All right. So my first girlfriend, Mandy Weinberger. Cut that out if you have to. My bad.
That's up to you, man.
But
that's between you and Mandy.
Oh, I don't care. Nope, don't care. She follows my show. It's cool.
Okay.
All right. So that was 13. That was my first concrete girlfriend, and then yeah, she was number one. Caitlin McCulley, number 2.
And did you feel completely justified in having girlfriends and having like sounds kind of crazy to say a romantic life as a boy of 13, but did you feel any like guilt or shame about that, or was it just completely overruled by your hormones and your desire to, get some action?
All the shame, dude. All the shame, brother. So picture it like that. So like, I guess whatever kept you in that box, dude, I felt all of that during breaking the box. So like, yeah, dude, like I'd be crying in my room after school because like, basically when I did all that normal, natural teenage stuff that I did get to do, thank God, like, I felt like I wanted to, like, I'm going to die. I don't get eternal life. And then I'd be like, I don't even believe in that. Throw it aside. I'd be reading about like Taoism and like the Tao. And then it would creep all back in because like, I don't know, man, some 9/11 type thing would happen. I'd be like, see, they're right. We're close to the end. Like, and then I'd be recaptured and like, even though I don't believe it, it's still real. I'd be like, it's real like the sun is real. I'm dead. Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, dude. I know, man. Any time there was some sort of cataclysmic world event, it was definitely used as fodder for the end is near, right? 9/11 was definitely a big one. Dude, I've talked about this before, even if there was like a fucking thunderstorm where the sky turns green, you're like, oh shit.
Yes.
Everybody thinks this is just a cold front moving in, but you guys are all about to get nuked. Yeah, it was scary, dude. You were always on high alert because you never knew when it was going to happen. It could go down at any moment. I felt like, like you see like a dog dive on the bed when there's a thunderstorm. That was me. Every like, you hear about a hurricane or a tornado or a tsunami on the other side of the world, you're like, it's coming for us. It's moving this way. Yeah, you're constantly kept on your toes. And they can always point to any one of those events as like, see, this is a sign. This is a sign of the times. Even though natural disasters are just a part of the earthly landscape, they've been happening since the dawn of time, It's always used as fodder anytime there's some sort of political uprising, whatever it may be. And I've been out for 20 years, and I can guarantee you that there have been countless things that they've pointed to since I left, I'm sure that they were pointing to, like, Black Lives Matter riots and, like, school shootings and the Trump era, whatever it may be, in this country alone, being like, see the unrest, see the unease, see the racial injustice. It's all part of it. It's all part of it. I'm sure they're leaning into that shit.
I can let you know they did. So all my siblings are still Jehovah's Witnesses. So I still get constant inside scoops on the updates and what's happening now. Like, yeah, dude, they definitely did all of that. But there was an unusual dichotomy that also happened. They shut their meetings down. And if you know Jehovah's Witnesses, which I know you do, they got to follow the laws. So they didn't go to any meetings. They only did telephone meetings. They only did telephone service. Like, like my sister, like, she loves to go like dancing, and she travels all the time, right? Like with witnesses, with other Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, she didn't do it. She didn't leave the house. She literally followed the rules. Like, it was just really weird to see them do that while also they're telling them like they might round us up. It might come to that, brothers and sisters. That's how darn close we are. Bullshit. Fucking.
Yeah, which is hilarious, dude, because I remember hearing that too. Like you need to maintain steadfast and strong in the faith amidst religious persecution. All this terminology that was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, and having them be like, yeah, they might the government might decide that Jehovah's Witnesses are a danger to society, and they might outlaw our organization and round us up and throw us all in prison. And I was like, that's fucking crazy. Why would that happen? And then you're like, oh yeah, the Holocaust. That's legitimate. Yep, that could happen. And the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses were involved in the Holocaust, like a lot of people don't know, 12,000 Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's how you know that's how you know they're lying to you. They just took something that happened to us and they go, this is what could happen to us. Like, you're not predicting no future. You took a thing that happened in the past and now you're implementing it in this control mechanism.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you got to pretty much have so you did have both sides of the coin. So you had a normal upbringing in terms of hanging out with kids outside of the organization, holidays, dating, socializing, which is great.
Sex, drugs.
Yeah. So what I had to do, since I was terrified of the disapproval, not only from Jehovah, but my mom, who it was everything to her, and she watched all my older siblings turn their back on it, turn a blind eye, and just completely either get disfellowshipped or disassociate themselves, and it was devastating to her. So there's all this pressure placed on me. So I had to deal with that, knowing if I leave, if I'm the fourth of her kids to leave, it's gonna be like a fucking dagger through the heart. And my siblings, dude, the amount of phone calls I remember hearing my mom on the receiving end of, just hearing about all these things that my siblings were doing that were counterintuitive to the Jehovah's Witness organization. My one brother alone, he disassociated himself. He bought a motorcycle and started doing cocaine. And then he joined the Marines. Military service is a big no-no. He got out of the Marines. He married a Catholic woman and then converted to Catholicism. And it was just like a fucking prison shaking to my mom. Just so I knew if I was to be like, yeah, I can't, fuck it, I'm gonna peace out, she would have no reason to live. So I had tremendous guilt in that way alone. Like, I can't just, like, this will be a dagger through my mom's heart if I leave. So what I had to do, I had to kind of like, these two Jehovah's Witness friends that I did have in my congregation, and don't get me wrong, there were other Jehovah's Witness kids. They were so into it that I couldn't with them. Like, I was like, they were so far brainwashed, such goody two shoes. I felt like judged by them a lot. Like, I wasn't doing enough. I might as well have been a worldly person to them, even though I wasn't doing anything in action that was against the rules. They could kind of sense my half-assedness in terms of my commitment to it. They could kind of tell I was going through the motions. So I didn't want to hang out with them. So, like, one of my buddies was in a similar boat as me, kind of going through the motions. And then another buddy of mine he was in it to appease his mom, but she didn't have nearly as tight of a stranglehold on him as my mom did on me. So he was totally living a double life. So he was having sex, drinking, doing drugs. He started working in a restaurant when he was like 17, started boning the manager of this restaurant in her office, this married woman with like 2 kids. And I was like, that guy's my fucking hero. So it was like, if he can do it, Like, there's hope for me. So it was almost like bred into me, this need for secrecy. And like, if you're going to do bad things, you got to keep it close to the vest. And, there was no like actual acting out. It was just kind of like keeping my eye on the periphery of like what could be. So I kind of had to either like live vicariously through my friend, like, tell me all about it. What's it like on the outside?
Yeah.
But that's good, man. That's healthy that you got to live a normal childhood, a normal adolescence. You didn't have to go balls to the wall, off the rails, like so many Jehovah's Witnesses do when they leave, making up for lost time. But
no, I did.
You also like...
I did.
You did? You still went off the walls?
Oh, no. I did, yeah. Yeah, no. I did that. Let's not kid ourselves. I definitely did that, bro. It's just, yeah, like I got both, though. I got to do both at the same time. I had to put in, 38 hours of field ministry work with my suit, and then I'd go to football practice because at least for my freshman year, I got to play football because my dad got me in there. You know what I mean? So like I get to be in the locker room and talk about bitches and they don't know anything about Jehovah. They've never seen a door knocked. So like that's what I'm saying. Like, and you're right. When I look back at it, it almost makes me sad hearing about your dad, how he just like could stand. It makes me just kind of think in my head, like, that's the one thing that really did help me get through. My dad was so solid for me. And like, if I would have like looked at him to my dad when I had the briefcase in my hand and he just went, sorry. And there's only 2 or 3 weird, super homeschool Jehovah kids there. Like that really, I don't know. I feel like that would have made me, I don't know, crazy, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you had your dad as a fucking reality check, which is
like
huge.
An anchor.
Yeah, sure.
He still is. I still do. I still have my dad. I love my dad.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Yeah, I basically grew up thinking this is insane because here's the thing. Like, if I was homeschooled, which a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are, which I think is, if you really want to keep your kids in it, you should homeschool them because once they start going to school, that's their portal to the outside world. They see how other kids are living. They're like, oh, why the fuck am I doing all this shit that I don't believe in? So I went to school. I saw what was available that I couldn't partake in, but I was told that it was bad. And so I didn't have this reality check because my mom was in it. My dad was just kind of like, yep, do what your mother says. So I felt fucking crazy most of my childhood. So you're telling me that all these other kids, all these non-believers, they're all evil? They're all basically spitting in the face of Jehovah? How can that be? And yeah. I'm gonna be saved just because I'm kind of going through the motions and doing this to appease my mom. So yeah, dude, that's huge that you had your dad as an anchor. That's great. So you said 38 hours a week in the ministry. You were out knocking on doors, so that you couldn't avoid.
Nope.
That was part of your life. Okay.
Talks. I gave talks.
You gave talks. Okay. Wow. Damn.
Yeah, I was.
So you were still in the shit.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you, bro. I literally was doing is like 2 fists, right? Like 2 sides of my brain, and like I knew, like my dad's a good guy. He lives a normal life. So I can do these things, right? But then, since I can remember, no, you can't. You're gonna die. You don't get to live forever. Your family's gonna be living forever, playing with lions and tigers and stuff, and you're gonna be dead. And the guilt. And that's really the biggest thing. Is like, I would think they're gonna live forever thinking about how I couldn't cut it. I couldn't get it together. All these like manufactured things that don't even exist. It's like prison in your mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did you actually believe it? Did you subscribe to their whole belief system, or did you actually have a hope for the paradise and believe I can live forever?
Oh yeah, dude. Like, it was just that it was like I constantly. This is what it felt like. Jehovah Witness is my internal operating system from my beginning remembering. That's what belief is, right? But then constantly during that, there was a representation in my home that said that's not true. Like, my dad went to 0 meetings, but he went to work every day, and he played with me every day. And he did all these things that, like, when I went to the meeting, they're like, people in the world, you don't get to spend time with your family because they're drinking and they're drugging and they're all this shit. Like, that's like, it is true for a lot of people. You know what I mean? But that's because there's everything in the world. And that's really what it was like for me, bro. Like, I believed it for sure.
And so your parents were still married this whole time?
They're married till I was 8.
Till you were 8. Okay. So I was going to ask if that created a rift in your parents' marriage. Clearly it did. Right?
Yeah.
Is that the reason they split up, because your dad was not in it?
Well, like, yeah, I would assume so. My mom was violent. I remember, like, my mom was a violent lady. Like, I remember one time my dad running into the bathroom and her taking a hammer and just smashing the door, hitting the door at least like 12 times until, like, she didn't break the door down, but like just an excessive, crazy thing.
Okay. It wasn't like The Shining. She didn't peek her head through a fucking splintered door. Here's Jehovah's Witnesses.
No. Like, she was tired. I think she got tired just screaming on the ground. But yeah.
Wow, that's nuts. Okay. Power of the Christ compelled her.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were in it through your teen years. You said 10 to 14 is when you stopped, is when you kind of devoted yourself even more. So you got baptized when you were 15, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting. So I felt like I was more invested in it as a kid when I was very much persuaded by the illustrations of a paradise earth. And to a kid, to show that to a kid, frolicking in a field with a lion that's, like a fucking house cat, you're like, oh my God, yeah, sign me up. And then as I got older, the whole belief system, it really kind of starts to go off the fucking rails, and you're like, this is deranged, 99.9% of the population is going to be obliterated. The earth is going to be transformed to a paradise, 144,000 in heaven. It just sounds like, it's like a deranged sci-fi novel. So, like, as a teen, I started thinking, okay, I don't believe this. I'll still go through the motions, but this is not something that I truly believe in. But you kind of went the other direction. You actually were successfully brainwashed during those really kind of crucial teen years, where that's where a lot of kids break. You became more involved in it. So what finally led you to start to question things and plan your escape?
See, but you got to remember, I was breaking during it. Like, I did get baptized at 15, but I also had sex the night before to make sure that I couldn't fuck it up, or already fucked it up, whatever you want to call it. Like, I was so scared about fucking it up that, like, I left my house, got fucked up, and then had sex with Caitlin, like, to, like, feel free. Like, no matter what, I know now I'm dead, I'm out, they can't fuck with me. And so that's what you have to realize. Like, it was all happening at once. Like, I was going through, what was that book called? It was like there's some book you're reading when you're getting baptized, right? And then also, like, at night, I would go and I'd be reading about, like, the Muslim religion. Like, I'd be reading about Sunnis and Shiites, because they would say that, like, at the hall. They'd be like, they fight each other. That's how other religions are. So I'd go Google it. I'd look it up. I got a Quran. Like, that was the time where I really pressed it. And it's funny, because what you just said to me, you're like, almost all the population of the planet gets destroyed. You're like, that's ridiculous. Well, what about the Younger Dryas, like, theory? Like, that actually probably did happen. So for me at this point, this is when my thinking got very, very deep. And like a lot of the things Jehovah's Witnesses say, they could be justified. It's a lie that they're using, and there's real world justifications that can cover a lot of it. So I really didn't feel like, I don't feel like they're any more retarded than like Catholic or Jew or like any of it. It's all that I've ever read so far, all fantastical garbage. Like,
yeah,
all of it.
I don't disagree. It may be slightly more fantastical, but yes, it's all pretty out there. But the fact that you had sex the night before you got baptized, that's incredible. Good for you, man. That's like a fucking junkie shooting up in the bathroom before they go to rehab. They're like, one more for the road. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
But yeah, that's how I did it, dude. So that's kind of what I'm saying, dude. Like, for me, I was broken when I took the step because I was so scared about it. Like you said, man, like when you're baptized, you can get disfellowshipped and like all that shit, bro. Now, I wanted to ask you, bro, were you brought up poor or rich?
So I grew up in Fairfield County, Connecticut, which I don't think it still is, but when I was growing up there, it was considered in like the top 5 richest counties in the country. So, Connecticut has this reputation. Like, you tell people you're from Connecticut, they're like, ooh, la-di-da. Little do they know, all you got to do is drive up 95. Most of Connecticut is a abysmal shithole. If you think Connecticut is a place full of fucking bougie, country club, hoi polloi, whatever, like it's most of it's a dump. Most of it's a dump. It's not all it's cracked up to be. So I grew up in a pretty wealthy town, but my family was middle class. Both my parents came from money, but my dad, like, he was like a vice president of like a local insurance company. Like, he did fine, but it wasn't like we were swimming in money, I definitely heard of some financial concerns for my parents growing up. So I'd say kind of middle of the road.
Yeah, Are You Garbage? I remember you said that on Are You Garbage because I thought that reminds me. So my mom, she owns an insurance company, right? And from when I can like remember, she's had her stockbroking license. So her company, she does like stockbroking, like stock investments, mutual funds, life insurance, equity. So in my experience, bro, with Jehovah's Witnesses, there's a lot of poor people, and at least in my experience, a lot of rich people. And since I've been like listening to you talk, I wanted to ask you because I was like, I don't know if you experienced that. Like, you remember how you were talking about like the hand-me-down suits and shit, like that people would get? Like, I grew up really, really wealthy, and I felt like there is a divide even in my hall of us who were wealthy and then the ones that were poor Jehovah's Witnesses that were either like uneducated people that were captured by the cult or whatever the case would be. They're like house cleaning people, stuff like that. And did you not experience that?
That's funny, man, because like I did. I never thought about that until now, and I would say a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses come to it from a place of desperation, whether they're impoverished or they've just experienced tremendous loss, or they're recovering addicts, or some sort of trauma in their past that they're looking for a hope for the future. They're looking for something to put their faith in, have some sort of hope for the future. So I feel like it gives them a place of sanctuary, a sense of community, a sense of family. And also, yes, there were several families in my congregation. One kid my age, who I didn't really gel with, but his dad worked for IBM, and they were super wealthy. And there were other people that were super wealthy as well, now that I think of it. And I kind of wonder, and they weren't born into it. They all came to it. And I kind of wonder if there's a great divide, because it's almost like wealthy people wanting to kind of not lower themselves, but like kind of be like, how can I pay this forward? If I can't pay it forward financially, let me pay it forward by doing service to my fellow man and giving them a hope for the future. It's almost like some sort of novelty about it. I don't know. I'd love to hear your take, because I never thought of that.
This is what it is, my dude. It's just like the rich ass lefties. It's like the rich ass blue. The people who are like, I gave this much money to this LGBT thing and look at my name. It's that concept, bro. There's a divide in the hall where the poor families hang out with each other, the richer families hang out with each other. Obviously, we all mix. And what I was trying to develop when I listened to you, my friend, is which one were you in? Because I want to know, and then I want to hear.
I mean, I would say probably, since there was like some generational money, I would say my family associated more with the wealthier side.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah.
In your experience with that, did you notice, like you said, those kids, they got the hand-me-downs, but we, especially because like, you know, if you're black, you're Dominican and stuff, like any Latinos, like our suits would match. We always went to the convention with brand new, fresh matching suits. Those are the concepts where I'm telling you, like, I loved it, bro. Like, those were the things where my dad loved it. Like, he saw us all come. He saw me in a fresh, fly little man suit. You see what I'm saying? These were the things where I was like, sometimes I listen to what you guys talk about, and it seems a lot of the horrible things that happen to the more poor Jehovah's Witnesses, because they really do go through more of the negative things. Their parents are the ones that drink more, because we know Jehovah's Witnesses, if they're doing anything, it's drinking. They're the ones that deal with the violence more. They're the ones that deal with the worst stuff. Like, seems like a lot of people on here have been the poor ones.
Yeah, I'd say so. Although, you know what's funny? Like, I still feel like it's hard for me to answer that question, because even though my parents may have identified more with that side of things from having wealthy parents, they themselves weren't necessarily wealthy. So I was getting not necessarily hand-me-down suits, but I was getting like cheap-ass like J.C. Penney suits that were 3 sizes too big, because my mom was like, "You'll grow into it, you know? Yeah, you're not a 42 regular yet, but in 10 years' time, this will fit you perfectly." So I looked fucking ridiculous, dude. I talked about this before. I looked like David Byrne in Stop Making Sense, or Tom Hanks in Big, just sleeves down past my fucking knuckles. So it was a bad look. But I also remember showing up to conventions and seeing, you know, I was also, would you say there are more people of color that are part of Jehovah's Witnesses than white people?
It's weird that you said that. I would definitely say yes, but it's not like there ain't a good amount of whites. There definitely is. It's like 40, 60, maybe. Like at least every convention that I remember experiencing and stuff like that.
Yeah. I remember going to the conventions and seeing people kind of like taking pride in their outfits. You know, like that was more the thing for them than actually like the godly devotion or the commitment to the organization. It was more just like, look at me in my fucking flashy purple zoot suit. And this was like late 90s. And I remember specifically asking my mom, like, can I get a purple suit like that? And her be like, basically trying not to be like, you're white, you know, but saying that without saying it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we don't fucking dress like that.
I wanted blonde highlights in my hair, bro. I wanted blonde highlights in my hair like the white kids would. And I remember there was this like light skinned mixed kid at our congregation, and he had them. And I'm like, Mom, I want to get him. And that was the only time where she told me, no, because you're not white. And like I
do think it's insane though that I was a white kid that wanted a suit like Sinbad, and you said you're Dominican, and you wanted fucking highlights like Nick Carter. That's just insane.
Yep.
That's incredible. Yeah, dude, there were certain elements to it that were appealing. The black kids in the organization always looked like they were having more fun, for sure. Because there was a showiness to the dress where I was just dressed like a fucking stodgy old country club member with like my blue blazer and my khaki pants and my boat shoes, dressing like I was fucking 65 years old, about to crack a champagne bottle on my yacht. Yeah, I felt so out of place for so long, dude. That like I still have so many fucking neckties. I have like probably 30 neckties in a backpack that I don't know when I'll ever wear again. But for some reason, I can't bring myself to get rid of them. It's weird.
I have like suits, tons of suits, but they're nice, bro. I love it. I gained that from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you leave? What were the first seeds planted of like, I don't want any part of this. I got to plot my escape. I got to get out of here.
The scariest part. All right. Senior year. And in high school, had a car, had a girlfriend, Chloe Palace, and I was making a plan to escape. And what did I do? Oh, my brother. So my brother, he was never baptized until he's my older brother, by the way. He didn't get baptized till he was like 28 or maybe even 29. Long time. Full adult, right? So he had his own house and I moved in with him and he didn't do no Jehovah's Witness stuff at the time. Like he wasn't going to meetings and stuff like that. So that was really when I first got to like be free of the cult every day. Like I wake up, I went to work. I became a dog washer because like, you have no skills. You know how you have no skills, right? They make sure you have no skills.
Dog walker, dog washer. Yeah.
Right. And I started saving money and having sex with girls in Commerce and West Bloomfield. And that's when the escape started.
Yeah. Good for you. So you were baptized. So were you disfellowshipped? Did you get disassociated? Did you just kind of like slowly ease your way out? Because I'm considered inactive. I just stopped going to meetings and I just faded out, hit the reset button and started over. And they came after me for a little bit, trying to rope me back in. But I went off the fucking grid and just kind of ghosted everybody. So I've never been disfellowshipped. I never disassociated myself. So I'm considered inactive, So I could step back in a Kingdom Hall. I could go back to my congregation tomorrow. And they're like, Doug, you're back. Welcome. So What was your move?
So I go to the memorial every year with my mom.
Okay.
Right now. Yep. So, I'm baptized. And so I'm considered what you said. What'd you call it?
Inactive.
What is it called? I'm considered inactive. And see, my family, bro, they're so like high up. Like they're like my sister's husband is an elder. My sister Tashina, like she's single right now or whatever. But she's, what is it called? A special pioneer, 80 whatever hours. But also, like 80, like the crazy amount of hours, bro. But also she works at GM as a translator. So she makes like $600,000 a year. Like she's like in the 2 percentile of females in Oakland County. So like my family gives a ton of money to them. And like, I don't know if you know, like the box, right? The box that you put the little money in the box, right?
Of course.
Like elders of each congregation are the ones that are counting that money, Like my stepdad, he was an elder. And my stepdad, he would give like $6,000 checks, $5,000 checks. And I know like my mom It's my mom. It was my mom's money, by the way, too. Because you know how like women can't be the one doing stuff. It's got to be the man and shit. My mom's money. He's like, they never try to come after me. They never said anything's wrong. Like, they don't come after me like that. I don't have any problems. And I see my brothers, my nieces, everyone who's still Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're really strong Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't ask me, like, none of the bullshit, like, what have you been doing or any of those things. Like, so what have you been up to when they're trying to, like, get you in trouble?
So you have not really been, you've not really been ostracized. Sounds like your family's pretty embracing of you. They're like, their relationship with you is more important. I shouldn't say more important, because clearly they're very committed Jehovah's Witnesses, but they don't feel like they're going to be doomed to destruction if they have any sort of association with you.
Yeah, because I think, but it's paid for, if you will, and not just in money, but like I have uncles and I have aunties that are in Bethel. Like, we have so many deep people in the cult that I believe that I get a pass. Like, fucking, what was his name? I forget the guy, the one who would try to keep me, that I went through the book before I got baptized, right? Like, I've seen him out in public. Like, he's seen me and he's just given me a hug and said, nice to see you. Like, he didn't try any. I've seen other Jehovah's Witnesses where they are trying to, like, get you to confess on yourself so they can get you disfellowship. Like, they got to get it in the books, get them out of there, or they got to reel you back in.
Yep, a lot of snitches out there, man. I know, I've seen that firsthand many times. Somebody entrusting a secret with another Jehovah's Witness. Like, I gotta get this off my chest. I gotta tell somebody. They tell it to them in confidence, and then they just fucking sing like a canary to the elders, and they're like, "What the fuck, man? I'm out of my ass." Did you
have any solids? Did you have anyone that was solid growing up? Like that
I could like confide in? Yeah, oh yeah,
Your
yeah.
age.
The guy that I mentioned who was working in restaurants and doing coke and fucking the manager. Yeah, he was my rock. I mean, I had way more on him than he had on me, you know? So
right,
there was a mutual understanding there. But that's, I guess you're kind of, you're grandfathered in. You're kind of like would you say that you're like the black sheep of the family? Are there any other Jehovah's Witnesses that are on the fringe like you that still kind of dip a toe in the water to stay in your family's good graces, or are you the only one?
Yes, I'm not the only one. It's my brother's daughters. So, like, it's funny though too, because I babysat all of them like till they were like 2, like Rogue till she was 2, and then she was with her mom. And all his daughters are fringe Jehovah's Witnesses, if you will. None of them are baptized. Rogue's in college right now at OU. Actually, all right, so I worked with this 18-year-old kid, like, doing this, what was it? It was like voter registration job, like working for the Blue. It paid really well. But anyways, I'm talking to him, blah, 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 blah. He's talking about this fine Dominican girl, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, really? It's definitely my niece, right? And she is out there getting wild. She's getting wild. I'm like, okay, dog, all right. So, yeah, they do. They are.
Yeah, party's like, I don't want to hear about this. And then another party's like, good for them.
They're living.
Yes.
They're living it up.
At first, it was like, ugh. But then reflection.
Yeah. So your current opinion of Jehovah's Witnesses, I imagine you don't sound like you're bitter at all. You don't sound like your life has been destroyed, because you've seen both sides of the coin. Do you feel like your family that is in it, or do you feel like you yourself have taken anything away from it that you see as a valuable asset that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, so number one, right, my day job, live music production, I got to stand and talk in front of 1,000 white people, right? And I can do it, no problem. Because I've been giving talks since I was 8 in front of a bunch of white, like, so that's something that actually like I am so grateful for. Sometimes I think about like the abuse and the bullshit that I did go through, and I'm almost like, yeah, well, I'll take those scars for that one blessing that I have, because I see so many people struggle when they go on stage, and I love that. I think we're like better at being educated, bro. Like, we had to read. I would assume it's all of us. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just me, but they made us read so much. I feel like I'm very proficient at taking in information and then utilizing it for what I need to. Like, I'm very grateful for that. And then at the same time, I hate them for all the bullshit that they did. Like, there is no retribution for it, but a lot of it didn't really happen to me. Like, I feel bad for, like I said, the poor classification of Jehovah's Witnesses. They had to wear the hand-me-downs, that had the black eyes, that I know their dads drank too much and beat their moms and shit, bro. Like, that stuff is directly caused because they're like forced into this thing that's insane. And they can't use a substance to get away from it. They can't do anything but pray and fucking be nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you about the public speaking for sure. I remember having to give oral reports in school and looking around the room and seeing kids trembling before they had to stand up in front of like 15 kids in a classroom and thinking like, what the fuck are these guys so worried about? And like doing it with complete ease and having my teachers be like, have you done public speaking before? And not wanting to out myself as a Jehovah's Witness and just be like, no, I'm just a fucking natural. I don't know. I'm just gifted. I don't know where this comes from. But yes, it definitely empowered me with a certain confidence speaking in front of people. I don't think I'd be able to do I mean, I moved to New York to do stand-up, and still, in spite of being a Jehovah's Witness, standing in front of 100 people giving talks, talking about things that I did not believe in, still had fear and trepidation leading into stand-up. I hit the brakes for 4 years before I finally took the plunge. If I had never been a J-dub and given talks, I probably never would have had the courage to do it. I had to kind of remember that, like, dude, you've stood on stage in front of people before. Like, you can fucking do this. So I definitely attribute confidence with public speaking to that. It's great that you feel like you are able to read and absorb information easily, because I feel like that aspect of things had the opposite effect on me. Because every time I would read one of these publications, my fucking eyes would glaze over, and I would just like, I would just immediately shut down, and I would have to reread the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And I feel like, unfortunately, that's the case for me today. Even when I'm reading things that are enjoyable, that I want to learn about, my retention of that information is fucking gone. And I have resisted reading anything as an adult because I have this association of like, I see a book, I'm going to be brainwashed. It doesn't matter if it's for recreational purposes or my own, educating myself about something I want to learn about or something I want to be entertained by. I see a book and I'm like, oh fuck, there's nothing good in there. That's gonna be a real obstacle for me. So I'm glad that you had the opposite reaction to this. I wish that was not the case for me, but it's brutal. Reading anything for me now as an adult is tough. I got to really be like, you can do this, man, and take the plunge. But I do feel like it's as a kid, you're surrounded by more adults. You have more interaction with adults than I think most kids do. And going door to door, I attribute being able to give somebody a firm handshake, being able to look people directly in the eye, as a kid, just being able to address adults in a more direct way. I feel like I was forced into a level of maturity much earlier than a lot of kids. Like I see a lot of my son's friends, like they, an adult addresses them, they're kind of staring at their shoes, very bashful, like not really able to engage with adults the way that I was. And just in terms of morality, honesty, it's there's definitely some attributes. Discipline, sticking to a very regimented routine. That's something that I don't think I would be able to do otherwise. So, it's not all sour grapes,
Yeah.
Mostly
Exactly.
for sure, but not all.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cult. Let's not end it with the people not knowing. It's a fucking cult.
Right.
For
Sounds like we're trying to rope people in. Guys, it's
we're
pretty
just
great.
badasses. We just made a good thing out of shit.
Sounds like we're trying to sell people timeshares, but instead of that, we're like, come to the J-Dubs. There's a meeting near you. You can attend. Yeah, I'm not trying to convince anybody that it's a good thing, but silver linings for sure.
Yeah.
But hey, man, I'm glad you made your escape. I'm glad you have made a life for yourself, and that you're still able to maintain contact with your family. I'm lucky because my siblings all left. My dad and I left at the same time. I don't have any family members that are still in it. And I do know people that have defected, that have either been disfellowshipped or are inactive, who have no contact with their families anymore. So the fact that you're able to live a life on the outside but still have contact with members of your family that are still affiliated, that's great, man. Good on you.
Blessed.
Yeah,
I know.
Well, hey, man, it was great talking to you, and it was cool to hear a different take. Like a lot of people that I've talked to have been like so either like destroyed by it or so consumed by it, and it's like, yeah, I was in it, but I was able to dip back and forth. It was cool, man. It was cool to get a different take on things. So thanks for reaching out, and thanks for doing this.
No problem, bro.
All right,
Thank you
man.
for having me.
Of course, man. Talk to you soon. All right, everybody. How about it? Randy Savagery. Give him a follow on Instagram at Randy Savagery. If you can spell savagery, good on you. I had a tough time with it. I'm going to help you out. RandySavagery. I'm telling you, I used to be a fucking expert speller, and modern technology and autocorrect has turned me into a fucking certified moron. I can't spell shit anymore. I get the first 3 letters right, mash a bunch of buttons, and cross my fingers and hope for the best. My God. Anyway, give him a follow. Check out his podcast, and give me a follow if you're not already doing so, at WhoDougSmith. Subscribe to my YouTube, youtube.com/@WhoDougSmith. Patreon.com/JehovahBoy, $5 a month for full ad-free video of every episode. Early access to full ad-free video, $5 a month. And you can definitely be a big part of keeping us afloat. And please make sure to email us. If you have a story you'd like to share or a question, we are doing listener email episodes. We are doing AMA episodes. We cannot do those without your stories and inquiries. You're a Jehovah's Witness, Scientologist, Mormon, Hasid, Christian Scientist, whatever the fuck it may be, any sort of fucked up religious upbringing that you want to tell me about. I would love to share it on the podcast. And if you have a question about Jehovah's Witnesses, I will do my best to answer it. Just send us an email. Would you? JehovahBoyPodcast@gmail.com. Send away, and you could be a part of the show. And remember, please tell a friend, share a clip, do what you got to do to spread the word. Thanks so much for being here. I love you guys. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.